All right. Hello, everyone. How are you doing this afternoon? Thank you. Lots of energy for towards the end of the day. I appreciate that. I just want to say this is my first time at React Alicante, and I'm very excited to be speaking with you guys today. I'm going to be presenting on a fun topic, and I'll tell you how I came about it in just a second. But briefly, let me go ahead and introduce myself. My name is COURTNEY YATTEAU, and I am a developer advocate at ESRI, ESRI. It is a GIS, or Geographic Information Systems company, so we do a lot of mapping. And previously, before I was a developer advocate, I've been doing that for 3 years, I was a high school math and computer science teacher, and I taught for 10 years. So there's a lot that happened in my 10 years as a teacher. And so one of the things that I used to do is I would start the year out with a hidden Easter egg, you could say, in my syllabus, just to see if students would find it. And so those that actually did find it, which would usually be like having to read all the way through the syllabus, they would actually then be rewarded with something like a free homework pass or bonus points or something like that. And so then after the students learned about that, especially the ones that didn't actually find it, they started to realize, well, hey, maybe that'll happen again throughout the school year. And I certainly did do that. So certain assignments and homeworks, I would throw in little mini puzzles and other like secret messages and things. So it really kind of became a game. And it really made it fun. So this is kind of the inspiration that I had. I said, well, I found a way to take a lot of things that I did in the classroom, like gamification and other things, and put them into web applications. Because after all, a lot of the things that motivate kids are what motivate adults anyways. We're not that much different. So we're going to go ahead today, and we're going to see how you can actually capture that same sense of surprise and delight in our React apps, and why hidden features aren't just fun, but they can be powerful too. Okay, so this is the agenda that we're going to be going through. So we're going to be looking at the what are hidden features and why you would want to use them with a React app. We'll look at a few real-world examples that hopefully you have seen before. We're going to look at a few demos. And then we're going to go through a framework. So I'll get more into that in a bit, but I like to always create some kind of framework that's like a memorable acronym to help you, learn or remember what you learned. And finally, we will wrap up with some conclusions. Okay, so first of all, what are hidden features? So hidden features are very deliberate. They are small surprises that developers and teams design very much on purpose. And they reveal themselves based on specific context. So this could be like a specific action that the user does, or maybe a key sequence. It could be a time-based trigger, maybe a specific location, or some kind of particular input. And really the goal isn't to hide something from the users. It's really to reward curiosity and create kind of a brief, fun, joyful moment that people might remember. All right, so why does React work for hidden features? So hidden features really boil down to conditions, and React turns conditions into UI very cleanly. So we derive a simple Boolean from a context. So for instance, let's say it's a holiday. The user hits a streak, or we're offline. There's one or the other. You're either offline or online, you're on holiday, you're not, that kind of thing. All right, the next is effects and cleanup. So effects help you react over time. So you could set a timer or a listener, and then you do whatever the action or thing is, and then you clean it up so nothing leaks. And then finally, small components do keep each idea very tidy. So you can pass simple props for the rules, let mount or unmount reset state, and flip them on or off with flags or themes. All right, who recognizes this? Yeah, this is our first real-world example, right? Okay, fun Chrome Dino offline little game that you get to play when your browser goes offline. So when the app loses connection, you give people something fun and small to play with. And then as soon as they're back online, it gets tucked away and out of the user's view. So to kind of try to relate this to if you were, say, to build this in React, really all that would be is just a Boolean and a clean unmount and a retry action. So there's really always a clear next step to go to. All right, who recognizes this? Yeah, the Google barrel roll. All right, so this is a fun little action that happens. So when you type a secret phrase, in this case, do a barrel roll into Google, the page spins, and then it goes right back to normal. So it's just a fun, little animation that happens. So if you were to try to build something like this in React, you could listen for the phrase, you could set a spinning state, spin class, and then you could clear the state on the animation end. So that's really just one clean component with state and a CSS animation. All right, and this is my final one. This might be a little bit less known. Does anyone know about this? I just discovered it the other day. Okay, I see a few. All right, so in Spotify, they actually made it to where you can type a certain code, or you could search for the playlist, Complete Star Wars Soundtrack, to actually turn the progress bar into a lightsaber. And clicking it changes the colors. So, and then you could type the code again to turn it off. So it's kind of fun. Now, if you were to build something like this in React, you could compute something like an is-themed state from context and conditionally render the themed progress bar. You could keep the rest of the UI unchanged, and then you could include a simple off switch. All right, so we're going to look at a few demos now. All right, and in the spirit of me working with maps a lot, I decided to show a few different map demos that are going to reveal some fun little Easter eggs or hidden surprises. So first of all three of these mapping apps or demos, they do use React Leaflet, which is a React component library for using the mapping library Leaflet, which is an open source library. All right, so here we are looking at the center, basically we're centered on Alicante. And how this works is the center is actually being used as our current location. This is just simulated. All of these are going to be simulated just for the ease of demo. So what happens is, as I drag around, we'll see more cameras appear within screen. So we see some up here, and then I could zoom out, and we could keep zooming. Potentially a bit more. There's another one, yeah. Okay, so we see them appear and disappear as we move around. Now this is the hidden feature, and I chose a small subset of these, but really the idea behind this is when we hover over one, it shows a place, and then I click on it, and it says, again, it says the place, and it gives a little description of the place, and then it tells you to come back for golden hour. So the idea behind this is if you are exploring a new area and you come across, you're just like looking at your map, navigating, and you come across a little camera that pops up and it says, hey, come back for golden hour, and then it tells you the time between or around sunset. So it's really just kind of encouraging you to maybe come back and take some pictures at a fun, beautiful place. Now, let me show you the admin side of this. You could see a bit more of like how this is actually working. All right, let me toggle this on. All right, let me refresh. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay, so here we have a circle that has a radius of 2.5 kilometers. And so I chose that value just because that would be about a 30 to 35-ish minute walk, depending on the landscape. But yeah, so as we move around, we can actually see that those are within that radius. So as the people walk and come across it, they will see those cameras. But of course, they're not actually seeing that circle behind the scenes. A little bit more, I will show a little bit of code, how this is powered, but I will say that those sunset times, those are not fake. Those actually do come from a library called SunCalc, and that calculates things like sunset, sunrise, and a lot of other things. All right, for my next demo. Okay, so this one is kind of fun. Let's say you are exploring an area once again, and you are walking around. And again, I'm going to just simulating the center of the map, and we're saying that's where we're at. We're just going to move around a bit, and oh, I have it on the debug mode. The user wouldn't see that. Okay, so we keep walking around, and I'm going to come up here. Oh, what's this? So it says, it seems calm near this area. Would you like a suggestion on how to take advantage of this calmness? So this, again, is simulated, but the idea behind it is you could use, say, data from cell phones, other kinds of like traffic data to determine where the people traffic are located. So maybe all of a sudden you come across an area that usually is very busy, but now it's pretty calm. You're getting a suggestion to say, hey, maybe you should take advantage of the calmness, and let's see, maybe take a deep breath and enjoy the sea breeze. Maybe take a photo, like a really good photo op. All sorts of different things you could do to take advantage of it. So another just fun little exploratory thing that you could add to your demos or your apps. All right, and then the final one. All right, and this time we are centered on Washington, D.C. One other thing I do want to mention real quick, if you didn't notice, I'm using a bunch of different base maps here, a bunch of different styles of the map. This one's OpenStreetMap, this one is one of Esri's base maps, and this, I believe, is another OpenStreetMap one, but a different variation. So let's say you are in a city and you are zooming in, trying to look for fun things to do, maybe just like a restaurant or whatever it may be. Well, if you zoom in far enough, I have a little hidden Easter egg. All right, so we zoomed in pretty far, as you can see. So the idea behind this is, hey, you've zoomed in pretty far. Maybe you're very, very interested about what's at this specific location. Well, all it is a pin. And that kind of leaves a little bit of curiosity. So, might as well click it, because sometimes pins have pop-ups, yeah? Let's see what happens. Fun fact, being very close to the U.S. Capitol building, that location is near where George Washington laid the cornerstone for the Capitol on that date using a silver trowel. So, this actually is not simulated or hard-coded. This is actually powered by our favorite thing, AI. It is using Google Gemini. So just a simple prompt to say, hey, give me a fun fact about this location. Now, when I zoom out, it will reset, and then I could move somewhere else if I wanted. For fun, let's zoom out real quick, and maybe go somewhere a bit further out. Mostly just to show that it is powered by AI. All right, let's just zoom in here. Not sure what this location is, but we're going to find out. Okay, here's a fun fact. Given those coordinates are near Kent, Connecticut, the town is home to Connecticut's highest waterfall, Kent Falls, cascading 250 feet down a rocky cliff. So just fun facts. I can think of so many other use cases you could do with this, but yeah, again, the idea is like to spark the curiosity of, oh, hey, I zoomed in far and all of a sudden I got this little fun fact. Maybe I'll keep exploring the map and learn what else I can. All right. Okay, so let's look at a bit of the code that was used to power this app, and I'm really just focusing on more of the specific React parts. All right, so this effect, it checks if we're inside the golden hour window. So it was funny because I actually set it on purpose to like a 6-hour window, but I think it would probably be best to do something, I don't know, a bit smaller, just to encourage them to go to that location soon so you can see the nice sunset. So it runs once immediately, then every 30 seconds to stay fresh. And so when the component unmounts, it actually clears the timer so nothing keeps running. And that's how we keep the is it golden hour, of course, stay up to date and safe. All right. Now this part of the sunset spots, again, this is the first demo. This shows the marker only when the is golden is true. So if the condition is not met, React, of course, renders nothing. And that's why the spot appears during golden hour and disappears the rest of the time. Okay, this was the second demo that I showed, the calm areas as you move around. So the library React leaflet does have a specific hook. It's use map events, and it lets you listen to map events that are happening. So in this case, it's watching for move end, which does fire when the user stops panning. So as soon as the map settles, it grabs the new center and calls on move. So the app can recalculate the closest calm zone. All right. Okay, so the next one is in the calmness app. So when you accept a tip, we can pick from one of the zones pool, show it, and then remember your dismissal for that zone. So we also clear the prompt, and that prevents repeat nudges in the same place. All right. Now, my final demo that I showed you all was using, again, Google Gemini for the AI, and it does use this effect. It listens for zoom changes. And so at zoom 18 is actually what we were at, is when it triggered the pin, or higher. We fetch a fact for that center point. So if you zoom back out, it resets. And the cleanup removes the listener when the component unmounts. Okay. And then another fact about the Zoom facts demo. While the facts load, we do render a small loading fun fact, which actually it was so quick we didn't get to see it. But it's a loading fun fact pop-up at the target point. And this keeps the UI responsive. And it does get replaced automatically when the result arrives. And then one more thing about that demo. So if we have a fact and a location, we can show a marker with a pop-up. And if not, we render nothing. So the UI stays nice and simple, so result or no. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, what I like to do a lot of times is when I show bunch of fun demos like this around a theme, so in this case our hidden Easter eggs, I like to come up with some kind of framework to help you remember bits and pieces about how you could use this concept in your own applications. So this time I chose to use the secret framework, and I made this up completely. So let's find out what each one of these letters represent. All right. So S stands for surprise and delight. So I've got a few concepts to talk about for that. So playful. The idea behind this is you want to have the app feel like small rewards that really make people smile. And of course you're rewarding their curiosity. Okay. Another one is context time. So you want to let them appear at the right moment so they feel natural. So these hidden surprises don't just like pop up out of nowhere. I will say I was playing around with adding sound to some of these demos as a hidden Easter egg. You want to be careful with something like that if especially if you are exploring an area and all of a sudden it just starts playing a bunch of noise. I don't know, maybe unless you're playing Pokemon Go or something, I don't know. But, all right. And then finally, you want to keep it low stakes. So you want to keep them brief and optional, and of course, never blocking the main task, right? So hidden Easter eggs can be fun, but you don't want to escape from the main concept of what the application does. Okay, next is E, which stands for event-driven. Okay, so the first thing is you want to trigger during a window or a gentle interval. That would be a nice example for how you could utilize a hidden Easter egg. So in my case, I did do that with that first demo, which was during the window of the golden hour. Okay, another one is you could use location, so you could wake up when someone enters a certain zone, and again, that's tying back to my second demo in that calm area, or crosses a boundary. And then finally, you could use it for some kind of zoom or maybe a key, a different kind of key pattern. I believe, I didn't put the demo in here, but I believe it's called Konami code. Anyone familiar with that? Yeah? Okay, I see some head shaking. Yeah, so it's a certain pattern of key presses that would unlock something. I believe it came from a video game, maybe that came out in the 80s, I think. So the developer actually put it as kind of a cheat code for himself and forgot that he put it in and released it, and people discovered it. So, all right, next thing is C, which is conditional rendering. So you notice that a lot of these patterns that I was showing, especially in the code, I was saying, so you want to conditionally render only when something is true. So if the rule passes, render. If not, of course, render nothing. It's pretty straightforward. So the next is local checks. So you want to keep the condition next to the markup that it actually controls. And then clear intent. You do want to have a very clear intention, so very simple rules are easy to read, and you can test it later. So start small, work your way up. All right, R, again, we're spelling the word secret. So R stands for reusability, of course, something that is very useful about React in general. So, of course, components. Package each surprise as a small, focused piece. All right, and then we want to use props as rules. So we pass simple little like knobs, like time windows or ranges, in as props. And then we swap the data. So, and that's really just saying like reuse the component and just swap out the data instead of making some kind of new component for whatever it may be. So in the case, again, in the case of a map, that could be like a bunch of different points in an area, so all the different calmness points maybe. And then you could change it to something different. All right, E is engagement. Of course, that's going to be really important with your hidden features. So, light measure, you want to track just enough to say, nice job, at the right time. So celebrate their progress. Don't make a hidden feature so complicated, like some crazy game or something. Unless, I guess, maybe they're on a really high level of a game or something, then they appreciate it. All right, respect choice. Of course, you don't want to force a hidden feature on someone either. So if something comes up, they should have the ability to just back out. And just generally stay gentle, so nudge occasionally. Maybe you just give the user options, of course, if they want to have fun with the Easter eggs or not. All right, and then finally, we're coming to T, which is the last letter in our acronym. That's toggling state. So we have URL flag. So this could be exactly what I showed when I went to the debug mode. So I used, it was like debug -1 as the little query param to actually be able to turn on the admin mode. Okay. Keys, so you could add a simple shortcut to reveal or hide an overlay on demand. So I already mentioned the Konami one. And then a lot of these, again, the conditionalness of it is like one Boolean, most secrets reduced to on or off. Just very simple, easiest way to do it. Okay, so there are a few possible extensions that I thought of when I was coming up with these demos. So the first one was the Konami unlock. I already mentioned it. But I think that could be fun to do it, obviously, in any kind of application. You could reveal anything you want, as long as they know the proper key code. The actual exact one is up, up, down, down, left, right, BA. That's the most common one that everyone knows. Another possible extension for especially the demos that I showed, you could put them all together. I did it in 3 separate ones just for the ease of display and being able to, just show how it all works nicely. But certainly put it all together. Just don't overwhelm the user again. And again, you could swap out like new data sets. If you have one, you could swap it out. Again, just keeping the same components. All right. All right, and then finally, I'm going to almost conclude here. So I want to tell you a few different use cases, outside of maps that you would certainly be able to use. We have already seen a few real-world examples. So the first one might be onboarding. So maybe you could unlock some small tips once someone gets a few wins as they're learning a new topic. The next one could be media. So you could add fun visuals on, say, release day to surprise regular users. We know that Taylor Swift is very popular with her Easter eggs. And her album just released today. All right, you could use it in retail. So you could show a hint when someone is physically near a store location, and that's pretty popular. I don't know if I'd call them hidden Easter eggs necessarily, but maybe it could be if they give you a really good discount or something. Education, kind of similar to onboarding, but more specifically towards learning a new concept. You could reveal, say, bonus material as the students continue to learn. Fitness is a fun one. So it could be, the one example that I did come up with is you could suggest a calm mode that could appear when the app detects that the heart rate is a bit down. So it says, hey, you want to do a little meditation? Or in the opposite effect, it could be something like, we detect that your heart is really high. Maybe you should take a breather. Maybe you should slow down. And then maybe reward them with something fun to do during that time. All right, and then finally, we've got dev tools. So you could use a hidden key sequence to show some kind of, say, advanced panel for maybe power users. All right, so that is pretty much all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much.